Hello everybody, my name is Mike Geig, and we are going to look at the next section using text with Allegro 5.0. Here you see the code we have looked at before. What we have on the screen is just sort of our template program. These are all the things that we know run. This is what we use to test our Allegro installation, and it's with this we're going to be working with text. First thing we need to do is include our header files. So I'm just going to type this out here. First is the Allegro font.h, which allows us to work with fonts, and we need one more header file here. And that is the Allegro 5 Allegro True Type Font. Okay. TTF. This allows us to work with true type fonts. Now, different than previous versions of Allegro or some other libraries that you might be used to using, there is no default font in Allegro 5. What that means is we need to provide a font when we do our programming. I'm going to go ahead and open up our solution folder here. Let me just drag this onto the screen, and you can see I've actually included Arial.ttf. Now, the downside to the way Allegro 5 handles fonts is that you have to have a font in your solution folder to use. Okay, so for those of you doing this at home, you're going to want to copy a font, maybe from your Windows Fonts folder or whatever, into your project. Okay, the upside is that we can use any font we want. Okay, we can take any TTF font, we can load it on in here, and we can get some really cool effects, really crisp text on the screen using whatever font it is that you want. So, it's sort of a double-edged sword, but it is what it is. So I have my font in the solution folder. You just saw the Arial TTF, and let's just walk through what our program is doing right now. It's loading our H files. We're creating our display. You should have read about that by now. We are initializing Allegro. We are setting the display to be 640 by 480. We're testing our display, and then we're just destroying the display. So obviously, so far, not doing much. Now, I've mentioned previously the add-ons or the modules in Allegro 5.0, and essentially what that is in an effort to speed up your everyday Allegro programs, not everything is included just by including Allegro. Instead, we need to initialize just the modules we need, and while it's a couple extra lines of code, it saves in speed. So the first thing we need is AL for Allegro, init font add-on. And what that does, obviously, is it initializes the font add-on. Then we do AL init TTF add-on. And the code for this will be available. So these two lines just initialize the font add-on, the TTF add-on, and now we can begin actually writing stuff with our program. Now, besides initializing the font and having a font in our solution folder, we need to create an Allegro font variable type that will contain all of the information about our font, which will allow us to write to the screen. Now, the Allegro font type is this, Allegro font, all in caps, and it's usually written out as a pointer. And let's just call this one font 24, and that name will make some sense here in just a second. And we are going to do, so we've created our variable font 24 of type Allegro font, and we're going to use the function al load font. That's the Allegro function that loads the font that we have included. Notice here the string that I've implemented is the path to the Arial font that I have in the solution folder. Next is the size, which is why I named it font 24, because we're going to do 24 point. And then finally any flags that we may have. And I'll get into those flags here in a bit. Alright, so I've created a font. So fantastic. Now I have what I need, the tools that I need to draw to the screen. First thing I want to do is I want to clear the background. since the background buffer or the display is just a random assortment of bits until it gets zeroed out, we want to do this clear to color to just sort of smooths over our canvas, as you will, just make sure that everything is set up exactly the way we want. So we're going to specify a color. So I'm going to do al map RGB, which is a function that allows me to enter in 3 integers between 0 and 255, and those directly correlate to a color. I'm going to enter 0, 0, 0, which is black, no red, no green, no blue. And that is going to clear our screen to a black color. Next, I'm going to draw to the screen. To do that, I'm going to do al draw text. That's the function we need right there. And the first thing I'm going to specify is the font object, which is our Allegro font 24. Then I'm going to specify a color. Once again, al map RGB. And I'm going to do, let's say, 255, 0, 255. I love and hate this color. It's a nice hideous magenta. And that's what we'll use there. Fun story, 255, 0, 255, that hideous magenta color used to be the transparent color for video game graphics, which is why it sort of stands out, because it's a color that you really wouldn't use for anything. And so it was a nice, easy, transparent color. Next, we're going to specify where we want our text to appear. You'll remember reading about the 2D coordinate system. We want it to appear at 50x, 50y, and then we want to specify any flags. And I'm just going to do 0 there, no flags, or just load the defaults. And then we are going to enter in our text. I'm going to type, hello world, this is 24 point. There we go. Alright, so this function here will write out our message to the screen, and the font that we have specified, and the color that we have specified. Finally, what we did is we drew to the back buffer. You should have read about double buffering before seeing this video. We've written to the back buffer, but we need that buffer to come to the front. Okay, that's something you need to do every single cycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to do al flip display. And that's going to flip the back display, the back buffer, to the front, so it appears on the screen. Now, of course, everything's going to happen super duper fast unless we slow it down. So what I'm going to write is al rest 5, and that is going to rest the screen for 5 seconds. And so when I run this, I'm going to have 5 seconds to see what's on the screen and make any adjustments or see how it's working. So let's run this. Alright, perfect. So that obviously works, and now we can go around, let's do some fancier stuff and kind of test some other things out here. So let's create some more fonts. Create another Allegro font, let's call this font 36. Let's see if I can type tonight. It's late. It is late. Al load font. Arial.ttf, and let's specify size 36 and no flags. Speaking about those flags are bitmap flags. Long story short, we put in 0 to specify, hey, treat these fonts like we treat all of the bitmaps. If we had done some special rendering with bitmaps and we didn't want to apply our fonts, or vice versa, we could use these flags. So we're pretty much just going to ignore those for the time being. And let's create one more font, font 18. Alright, great. Okay, so we have our 3 fonts, the 2 we just created. We're still going to clear everything to black, 000. And let's do some more drawing. Let's do al draw text, specify our font 36, specify our color. In this case, we're going to do, let's just pick some weird random color. I don't know what color this is going to be. And then our position. Now we know our screen is 640 by 480, so I want it to appear kind of in the middle. I'm going to do 640 divided by 2, 480 divided by 2, and then let's specify a flag. We had specified 0 for our flag before. This time let's specify Allegro align center. You'll notice center is spelled with the European spelling center. And then this is centered and 36 point. So this text will appear centered on the screen. Let's go ahead and run this. Okay, and let's go ahead and let's draw something else here. Let's do AL draw text, and we'll type out font 18. AL map RGB, and we'll pick another random color. Yeah, just remember it has to be between 0 and 255. And then let's make this appear near the end bottom of the screen, the lower right hand corner, because what we're going to do is we're going to do Allegro align right aligned, and then we're going to type this is right aligned and 18 point. Perfection. Okay, we'll run that. Alright, finally, we've just looked at the AL draw text function, which obviously is drawing text to our screen. There's one other function called AL draw text F, which actually follows the principles of the original NCC printf or Java printf, which will allow us to inject variables directly into the strings that we are outputting to the screen. So let's take a look at what exactly that means. I'm going to create two variables. I'm going to call it screen_w, which will stand for the screen width. Let's say I didn't know what the width was. I mean, obviously I know it's 640. Let's say I didn't know. I'm going to do al get display width, and I'm going to pass in the display. And that's going to return what the width of our screen is. Then I'm going to do screen h, and that's going to equal al get display height. And I'm going to pass in our display. Perfect. Okay. So now we have in these two variables, screen_w, screen_h, the width and the height of our screen, assuming we didn't know it. Now we're going to use our function AL draw text F. Okay. This is just a specialized version. Mostly, it's exactly the same as what we've looked at. There's really not that much different. Specify my font. I'm going to use font 18, so I want it to be a little smaller. Let's go to color, AL map, RGB, and we're going to specify, let's say, 255, 255, 255. Now, if AL map RGB 000 is black, what do you think 255, 255, 255 is? Go ahead and shout it out at home. I might be able to hear you. Alright, and then we'll just go ahead and use our variables, screen divided by 2, which means it's going to be approximately in the center, and we're going to do 400 for our y value, so it's going to be near-ish to the bottom. And then finally, since we centered it, I want to use the flag Allegro align center, so I'm sure it's centered on the screen. And then let's see here. I'm just breaking this down so it's not such a long line. We're going to do text with variable output, because that's what we're doing. And I'm going to say text F, so we're familiar. And I'm going to do screen width and height equals. Now this is where we get to inject the variables directly into the text. Watch what I do here. I'm going to do a percentage I slash percentage I. Now each of these is a placeholder for a variable. I do percentage I because they're integer variables. Okay. If I'd done percentage D, they'd be looking for doubles. Percentage F floats, so on and so forth. I don't know these all off the top of my head, so I might be wrong. But percentage S might be string. It's all pretty simplistic like that. You can look it up if you're not sure. But since I know I want 2 integer values that'll tell me what the screen width and screen height is, I have I, and then I just end my quote. So obviously this is hard-coded, %I. Since we're using the printf function, or the textf function, it's going to parse that, and then we can follow up with our variables right afterwards. And we can have as many of these as we want, as long as we have the placeholders. Now they go in order. So screen W will go where I is, screen H will go where the second I is. Okay, if we had 7 variables and 7 placeholders, they would be output in that order. Alright, so we have our variable text here. Let's go ahead and run this. Alright, so there you go. That is text output in Allegro. You can use that to do all sorts of stuff. Diagnostics, game instructions, just interface, so like player know how much health they have, how many points they have, how much time is remaining. So just really important. It's very important to know it, and that is text in a nutshell.